councils of government, we must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex.
But I do ask every publisher, every editor, and every newsman in the nation to re-examine his own standards and to recognize the nature of our country's peril. In time of war, the government and the press have customarily joined in an effort based largely on self-discipline to prevent unauthorized disclosures to the enemy. In times of clear and present danger, the courts have held that even the privileged rights of the First Amendment must yield to the public's need for national security. Today, no war has been declared, and however fierce the struggle may be, it may never be declared in the traditional fashion. Our way of life is under attack. Those who make themselves our enemy are advancing around the globe. The survival of our friends is in danger, and yet no war has been declared. No borders have been crossed by marching troops. No missiles have been fired. If the press is awaiting a declaration of war before it imposes the self-discipline of combat conditions, then I can only say that no war ever posed a greater threat to our security. If you are awaiting a finding of clear and present danger, then I can only say that the danger has never been more clear, and its presence has never been more imminent.
It's time to recognize that we've come to a turning point. We're threatened with an economic calamity of tremendous proportions, and the old business-as-usual treatment can't save us. Together, we must chart a different course. We must increase productivity. That means making it possible for industry to modernize and make use of the technology which we ourselves invented. That means putting Americans back to work, and that means, above all, bringing government spending back within government revenues, which is the only way, together with increased productivity, that we can reduce and, yes, eliminate inflation.
The only thing that can stop this corrupt machine is you. The only force strong enough to save our country is us. The only people brave enough to vote out this corrupt establishment is you, the American people. I'm doing this for the people and for the movement, and we will take back this country for you, and we will make America great again.
Hello, welcome to Inform New Hampshire. I'm Rich Merritt. Joining me today as co-host is Wileen Poliquin, and we're going to be talking about a very near and dear topic of ours, I guess, the family courts, which you should prove interesting. But before I get into that, I wanted to say again to Mr. Trump, please pardon Jerry DeLemus, Greg Burleson, and et al. They're innocent men, and we need the space in the prisons for the real criminals. So pardon them after 3 years and 2 months or whatever it is. Secondarily, please join the National Liberty Alliance. There's a big push on this year to achieve critical mass so that we can achieve some of the things we want to do. The only way we're going to achieve anything is if the people climb on board. It's your country, it's your law, it's your rights, it's your life. I mean, I don't know what else to say. If you're a bystander in your own life, then nothing is ever going to change. So you have to participate. So I'm asking you to go nationallibertyalliance.org, sign up as a member, contribute your time or money or both, whichever you can do. We would appreciate it because we're doing this for everybody, for all of us. I just want to retouch on a few things, and that is that the New Hampshire State Constitution was ratified in 1783 by the people. Once it was ratified by the people, it made that document a common law document. Okay, because the only authority higher than the people on planet Earth is God. That's it. The government is not over you, they're under you, they're your public servants. And the sooner you realize that, the better off you're going to be. With that in mind, we're going to talk about the family courts and some other issues that's been done to us. We'll highlight them as we go along. but we're going to go along with that. First, we're going to start off with Article 1, Wileen, if you'd care to jump in.
Absolutely. Article 1, Equality of Men, Origin and Object of Government.
Now, I want to say that just a little bit of slower. Equality of men, origin, which is the origination, and object of government. So since the people ratified this, the people are telling the government, here is the origin of the government and the object of the government, so that you will know.
Right.
Okay. I just wanted to clear that up.
Absolutely. All men are born equally free and independent.
And free, if you look up the definition, I was surprised by this, by the way, Wileen. I really didn't know this. We assume free means free, and well, I looked up the meaning of the word free in several different dictionaries. And one of the things it said that struck me is free from bondage. If you're free from bondage, do you need a driver's license to operate your car, your personal vehicle to drive from point A to B? I'm not talking about operating in commerce. I'm just talking about going to the store, going to the church, whatever. Of course not. Do you need a license from the state to get married? Don't you get married in the eyes of God, or is God now the state? Those are things that you start understanding once you start reading the document. So I wanted to emphasize that. You're free from bondage, and you're independent from everyone else. You're your own man. You're your own woman. You know, you're the king of your castle, and the next person is the king of their castle. As long as you two don't interfere, hey, that's called sovereignty.
Sounds good to me. Therefore, all government of right originates from the people.
Wait, could you say that again, please? Because I don't know if I heard that right.
I can certainly repeat that. Therefore, all government of right originates from the people.
Okay, so what I said about them ratifying the Constitution, them being the sovereign class of people in New Hampshire, and them being the highest authority on planet Earth anyway, is true.
That's absolutely 100%
And that reinforces
correct.
what I'm saying.
Yes, it does.
So I'm not lying about
No,
that.
you're not
Okay.
lying. That's what it says right here. I
Okay.
mean, not in those words, but that is what that means.
Right. The literal translation.
The literal translation. Layman terms, I think that's what they refer
Yeah.
to that as. Yeah. So, continuing on, therefore, all government of right originates from the people, is founded in consent.
Now there is something that people don't understand.
And I think you ought to explain it.
All of the statutes that come out of Concord, New Hampshire by the legislature, if you consent to them, a.k.a. a driver's license, a marriage license, or any other license, a license for your dog, it doesn't matter what. You want to put a roof on your house, you need a permit. A permit is permission. If you acquiesce to these, you're giving your consent to the government. So, yes, you are obligated to do that. You just consented to do it. What I'm saying is that under this provision of the law, Article 1, and there's a reason it's Article 1, you don't have to consent to any of it. Any of it. Not a thing. And we're going to talk about that in a few minutes, a little bit further. But you don't have to consent. Right? Well, right now you don't have, the courts don't have jurisdiction over you. There's equity law in the United States of America today. There's nothing else. And some people say there's Admiralty. Well, if you want to call it that, it might be splitting hairs. But there is no court of record. There is no common law. There is no land jurisdiction. But we are the sovereign class of people. And we're going to demonstrate that, not just here, but in other articles of the Constitution. So you'll see what we're talking about. Please read the Constitution. Ignorance is what's going to kill us all. And anyway, go ahead,
That's right.
Wileen.
Well, there's only one more statement, and it's the reason why it's founded in consent is because it's instituted for the general good.
Right. And it is for the general good. Now, what I mean by that is, if you notice in the Constitution, by the way, for anybody who has read it, it doesn't say in here murder's illegal, robbery's illegal, assault is. It doesn't say that in here. Why?
Because it's not for
Because it's
good.
because it's common law. Common law is unwritten law. Its premise is based on the Bible or the Ten Commandments or however you want to look at it. So, immoral people understand. Well, I'm not. If I go up and kill somebody, that's totally wrong. If I go up and assault somebody, that's wrong. We don't do these things. We understand that because we're civil, supposedly civil people and moral people, but we're losing our moral compass. And by that, the statutes are taking over because you're consenting to them. Stop consenting. Just one other point, because I might forget to make it at the end of the show. For any of you contemplating divorce, work it out with yourself. Don't get a lawyer. Don't get a shyster, okay? And don't go into the court system. The only thing that's going to happen to you is whatever assets you have will not be owned by the husband or the wife. They'll be owned by the lawyers or the judges. They'll take everything you own, and when they have it all, because they know exactly what you have, because you volunteer it on your tax forms and all kinds of other stuff, they'll take everything you have, and then they'll say, okay, you can get a divorce now. And you can't have custody, and you can. Well, they have no authority to do that, absolutely none, unless you consent. We'll move on after that anyway. We on Article 12 now, or?
Move on to the next.
Yeah.
All right. Article 12. Protection and taxation reciprocal. Every member of the community has a right to be protected by it in the enjoyment of his life, liberty, and property.
And just to stop you here, if you don't mind, Marlene, I'd
right
like you to
ahead.
read the definitions of life, liberty, and property, just so that people are
Absolutely.
clear as to it, that's all.
The definition of life. Old English life. Animated. Corporal existence. Lifetime. Period between birth and death. The history of an individual from birth to death. Written account of a person's life. Liberty. Late 14th century. Free choice. Freedom to do as one chooses. Also, freedom from the bondage of sin. Freedom, liberty, free will. Property. The labor of investing, making or producing anything constitutes one of the highest and most indefeasible titles to property. You want me to...
Yeah, indefeasible.
Indefeasible? Indefeasible, not to be set aside or overcome.
That should be sufficient right there,
I would
because
say so.
it's pretty clear. If your property shouldn't be set aside or overcome, what are the courts doing taking it? And we're going to get to who can take it in a minute, but I wanted to emphasize under liberty, it says you have free will. Free will means you have the right to consent or not to consent. And you have to understand that. This is a law that you wrote. I'm sorry. I'll be a little more clear about that. Your forefathers wrote it. I know you didn't do it, unless you're as old as me. Then you've been around 240 years. But the point I'm trying to make is that your forefathers did it. Okay? They created this document so that you and your children and grandchildren would be secure. We've fallen asleep and allowed it to be stolen from us by the bar and the banks. They work in unison. But enough of that. We'll continue on.
Okay. So those are the definitions of life, liberty, and property. Okay. He is therefore bound to contribute his share in the expense of such protection and to yield his personal service when necessary.
And I just wanted to emphasize one thing here. It says that he is bound to contribute. And you are bound to contribute if you want the taxation and protection reciprocal part of the agreement. If you don't want it, you don't have to pay. That's consent. It says it right here. You can go on and we'll emphasize the points.
But no part of a man's property shall be taken from him.
Now, that's the key now. I highlighted that up on the screen and underlined it. But no part of a man's property shall be taken. What does that mean? And I'm talking about the family courts. If a man and a woman have a child, they created that child. No one else on planet Earth did, okay? They did. Two people. That's what it takes. We all know that. I mean, it's not like it's a mystery. Geez, I wonder how it happens. We know that. The point is, if you created that child is yours. It's your property until they're 18 years of age, regardless of what the government says. The law says differently. It says right in there that it's your property. Okay? It doesn't say that your children are your property. What I'm saying is they're your property by virtue of the fact that the only one that's involved in the making of your children is God, because He created us, humans. Okay? You are the creation of your children. Nobody has access to them but you. Okay? Or, and Wylene's going to bring up the one party that does have access to them, if the situation arises.
Or applied to public uses without his own consent, or that of the representative body of the people.
Okay. Without his consent, or the consent of the governing body, the representative body of the people. Now, when I read that, I first thought, geez, representative body, that's the legislature. And then you read on and you start studying a little bit more and you understand that, oh, no, it isn't that at all. If the founding fathers wanted it to mean the general court, the legislature, they would have used those words. They said representative body. The representative body is the highest authority in law on the planet, and it's called the jury system. The petit jury or the grand jury, either one. A decision of a jury cannot be overturned by any court in the United States of America, not the Supreme Court. They can't overturn it. Why? Well, Jesus, maybe it's because we created the law. We wrote the law. And it's not up to our servant government to overturn it. Why would it be? Does that make sense? The representative body that Wylene mentioned is the jury system. If you doubt it, read this and keep reading it 2 or 3 or 4 times. It will sink in and you'll understand it. Because the only one that can take life, liberty, or property is a jury of your peers. In Article 5 of the, not Article 5, the Fifth Amendment of the United States Constitution, it says, nor shall be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. Well, the due process is the trial by jury. And if the trial by jury, the jury comes back and says you're guilty, they can take your life by sentencing you to death. They can take your property and take your liberty by putting you in prison for 5, 10, 15 years, whatever it is. So we've agreed to that. This representative body is the jury system. It isn't the legislature, like a lot of people think, because they haven't read it through and thought it through. And I've discussed this at length with someone who I perceive to be the foremost authority on the state constitution, and that's Dan Richard. He's been on the show several times. I commend him for helping me jar my memory loose. Anyway, let's go on. Wiley.
All right, so continuing on from there. Nor are the inhabitants of this state controllable by any other laws than those to which they or their representative body have given their consent.
Now, if that's not simple, I don't know what is. If I break the law, and let's assume that I do break the law, okay, and I go in front of a jury, and there's mitigating circumstances, and the jury says, no, you're not guilty. That's a lot of different stuff happening here. So what you were charged of, forget about it. We're wiping it out. You're free to go. Nobody can overturn that, because the one group of people that can rule on the fact and the law is the jury. That's it. It's final and binding on all parties. Nobody has a say in it. But if people don't read the Constitution and understand that, And by the way, there's so many cases out there, Wileen, that the judge will say, you follow what I say in the law. They'll tell the jury that. I'll tell you what the law is. And you're like, what? Well, if you weren't so ignorant, I'm saying this to the jury, if you weren't so ignorant, you'd ignore the judge. You would know the law because it's your law, not the judge's. It's yours. So I'm trying to get you to see this and read it. It's yours. It's been stolen from you, by the way. This book doesn't exist. You can use it for toilet paper.
And isn't that where people need to pay attention to when they're offered a trial by jury or a jury trial? Isn't that what you and I were talking about before?
Yes. A trial by jury is what you're guaranteed under the common law.
Right.
And that is a trial by
jury.
jury.
But a jury
so
trial...
who's holding that trial?
Right.
The jury
The
is.
jury.
What they give you today is a jury trial, and that is a concocted pile of garbage, a bovine scat, all right, if you'll pardon my French. But anyway, it's not what you're entitled to. And the judge and the prosecutor can manipulate those people and tell them what they need to know so that they'll get the outcome, whether it's a conviction or to set you free, a little politics, a little payola for the judge, whatever. They'll get their way. But a trial by jury, if you know the law, is different. Ignorance is going to kill us. Anyway, we can move on to the next one, I believe,
Great.
which is Article
Article
4, Part 2nd of the Constitution.
Power of General Court to establish courts. The General Court, except as otherwise provided by Article 72A of Part 2, shall forever have full power and authority to erect and constitute judiciaries and courts of record.
Okay, we'll stop at courts of record, but can you do the definitions, please?
Sure.
For that.
For erect and constitute?
Yes. I believe it's on that page,
Yes,
isn't
it
it?
is.
Yeah.
Yep. Definition of erect: to raise as a building, to set up, to build, as to erect a house or temple, to erect a fort. Constitute: to enter into the formation of as a necessary part, from Latin constitutus, past participle of constitute, I don't know that.
Okay.
To cause to stand, set up, fix, place, establish, set in order, form something new.
Well, the judiciary, I
Yeah.
don't know why I put that in there. I
A
said,
court of justice, a tribunal.
right, but the judiciary I put down that it wasn't found because the singular version was found of it, that's all.
Oh.
And I wanted to make a very clear point on that is basically what they're saying is that you can build, the legislature can raise the money to build a courthouse, not establish a new jurisdiction, which is what they did, okay? In 1966, and this happened in the 60s and 70s all over this country, right out, geez, I wonder if that was Vietnam. Maybe we were preoccupied, you think?
Oh, maybe.
They could build courts. Right now in Hillsborough County, the largest one in New Hampshire, there's a Superior Court in Manchester and one in Nashua, because it's the biggest county, most populated people. So they felt as though they needed to. But what they did in 1966 with Article 72A is they said, we're going to make all the superior courts in all of the 10 counties in New Hampshire, I think they call them district courts, with general jurisdiction. There's no such thing as general jurisdiction. But what they did was said, okay, these institutions are going to have general jurisdiction. And we're not going to tell you this, but you know the common law that you used to have? Yeah, that's gone. There's no more court of record. And I don't know if you heard after Wileen read that, she said, erect, constitute judiciaries and other courts of record. A court of record is what you, the people, us, we, are supposed to be tried in. If we're not tried in there, then there's nothing. There is no law. And you say, well, of course there's a law. The police got the guns, the police got the badge. They're enforcing statutes that don't apply to you. We proved it on April 3rd, okay? Now we're talking about the courts. Article 72A, I'll be very specific about this, They granted general jurisdiction, which doesn't exist. There's equity law, admiralty law, and common law. That's it in the United States of America. That's it. No, they're going to come along and say, well, now we're going to authorize general jurisdiction. Really? What is general jurisdiction? Whatever you want it to be? And you take away the court of record, the highest court in the land, that the Supreme Court can't overturn? Are you serious? This is a joke. Article 73A is they granted, and this really gets me, they granted administrative authority to the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court of New Hampshire, which is fine. He can promulgate rules for all of the courts. I don't have an issue with that at all, and then I don't think anybody should. But then the legislature went on to say, and they can also, those rules, when they're promulgated, can have the full force and effect of law. So Wileen today is the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, and she's retiring tomorrow, and I'm taking over, and I'm thinking, I don't like those rules. Tomorrow, I'm going to change them. And when I change them, it's going to be my law. So I got lawmaking authority, don't I? Is that what you want? Because that's what you got. And if you don't read your Constitution, you're not going to get it. You know, I'm personally tired of the ignorance that's going on in the country, and I'm trying to tell people, and I've been ignorant for a long time, so I'm not pointing fingers. What I'm saying is, what does it take for you to wake up? You want to elect a Democrat? He's going to solve your problem. You want to elect a Republican? No one's going to solve the problem. You are. You are the problem. You're the deep state in New Hampshire. You're the deep state in America because you don't know what the hell is going on. I didn't know what was going on. All right, thanks. If you got to realize this, you really do. And anyway, I'm going to stop so Wileen can at least do another sentence or two because we're going to run out of time.
Okay. And I ended with courts of records. Okay.
Yes.
Or other courts to be holden in the name of the state for the hearing, trying, and determining all manner of crimes, offenses, pleas, processes, plaints, action, causes, matters, and things whatsoever arising or happening within this state, or between or concerning persons inhabiting or residing, or brought within the same, whether the same be criminal or civil, or whether the crimes be capital or not capital, and whether the said pleas be real, personal, or mixed, and for the awarding and issuing execution thereon. Boy, they covered everything.
I want to interrupt here because I think we're going to run out of time, but I want to make this point. I was talking to a state rep. I continue to talk to him through an email, and he assured me that the courts of record exist and that they're the probate courts, to which I said to him, okay, so if I go out and I rob a bank, I'm going to be tried in a probate court? I don't think so. I don't think so. I've never seen a jury trial in a probate court yet. Maybe they got him. Can't really say for sure. But that tribunal's not separate from the magistrate, as it says in U.S. versus William, or if you go back to Article 61 of the Magna Carta. All right, that's where it originated from, the grand jury system. Anyway, my final comment is simply going to be this, because it gets aggravating when you can sit here and read the words and people say, oh, no, he doesn't know what he's talking about. Well, you read the law because it belongs to you, too. I'm not sitting here trying to force it down your throat. I'm sitting here trying to make you understand this is your law. It belongs to us, the people. And if you sit there and you're saying, well, I don't know, maybe Mr. Trump's going to save us. Yeah, how'd that work out? You got 4 presidents opening up this show, starting in 1961 with Eisenhower, and they didn't help us. He's not going to help. Well, he may help, but only we, the people, are going to do this. It's our country, our life, our rights, our taxes, our money, and we're getting screwed because we're too ignorant to know any better. I'm suggesting to you that you read the Constitution, understand it, and I apologize both to Wileen and to you guys for running out of time because I have a tendency to run off at the mouth. But thank you for watching. Please share this. Wileen, thank you for coming on. I appreciate your help.
Richie, anytime.
And all I can say is share it. Share the information, please. If you're not sharing it, they're not going to understand it. The Constitution's free. Secretary of State's office, go get one and read it. Have a good night. Thank you.